Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Reed. In this video, we're going to be looking at the digestive system. So, in the digestive system, we could go into each single organ and look at all the layers of that organ and the different locations of that organ. We are not going to be doing this in anatomy. That is some more upper level gross anatomy ideas, and you'll be getting some of that in lecture. So, the general takeaways from the digestive system in our lab is going to be what organs are involved in digestion, where are they located, and what is their main function? What order do they go in? That kind of idea. So I have a little drawing I did of looking at this, and we start, right, our food starts by going into our mouth. So that's what I kind of have here. So starting off, we start in our mouth. And in our mouth, we have things like teeth that are super important to break food particles down. So we start in our mouth or our oral cavity. And so the main thing that this is doing is chewing. We also have three types of glands that are helping out, and those are known as our salivary glands. Salivary glands. And our salivary glands, there are three of them. We have our parotid, our sublingual, and our submandibular. And they're going to create saliva. Now, our cranial nerves are what supply these within our autonomic nervous system. So the parotid is cranial nerve 7. With the autonomic nervous system, sublingual, and sorry, I said that wrong. Cranial nerve 9 is parotid, and then sublingual and submandibular are going to be cranial nerve 7. Anyway, you guys don't need to know what cranial nerves go with what salivary gland, but that was just kind of looking at bringing that back. I'll talk more about that in lab. But we have our salivary glands. So food comes in, we chew it up, we get it wet, and then it goes through our pharynx. So our pharynx is in the back of the throat region, and we swallow it. So that's the main thing that's happening with our pharynx is swallowing. From there, we have this little flap that makes it so that instead of going into our trachea, the food is going to go into our esophagus. And our esophagus is going to go all the way down until it reaches our stomach. The esophagus' job is just to transport it from the mouth down into the stomach. And so our stomach is right behind the liver. It's on the left side, right here. So what I'm coloring in pink, this is our stomach. Now, if we dissected out the stomach, you'll see that in lab. It has this kind of oblique-ish kind of oval look with a little bit of a curl. We have a couple of different parts of it. We have a cardiac part. Don't worry too much about the different parts. There's a fundus, all of those things. They're just the various locations of that we call the different parts of the stomach. But what is the stomach's main job? The stomach's main job is to churn the food. And so you'll see that the stomach has 3 layers of muscles, and those muscles go in different directions, and that's because it's going to move things in all of those different directions to kind of turn it around and mix in a bunch of different digestive things. The stomach is very acidic. So some of those things is pepsin. We also have HCl, hydrochloric acid, that are helping out. So pepsin digests proteins. HCl is going to activate enzymes and break up food and kill germs. And then there's also this mucus that's produced in the area that protects the wall. There is not absorption happening in the stomach. It's just preparing the food to be absorbed. So this is where chemical digestion occurs. So we start to break it down. Now from the stomach, the one thing I realized I didn't like really explain is that we also have, no, I'll get to, it's okay. So that's our stomach. Then from our stomach, we're going to go into our small intestines. Doopy-doo. So it kind of goes down into our small intestines. So this whole, I was gonna follow the whole thing. I'm just gonna do it like this. So this whole, it's kind of like inside the picture frame of the large intestines. That all is my small intestines. Now there are 3 parts to my small intestines, and we'll talk about them in a second. But let's just keep going through kind of knowing what our general locations are, or our general jobs. So when we look at the small intestines, again, there's 3 parts of it. The main function is, this is where we have absorption. This is absorption. Wow, spelling is so hard for me. Absorption. This is where absorption happens. This is the main area where we absorb things. This is the completeness of digestion. We've now finished digesting what we could. We've taken in what we can. And then the last part, what we have in the large intestines, is going to be where we reabsorb some water and we create feces. We get rid of what we're not needing. And so from our small intestines, we go into our large intestines. We start right here with our ascending colon. Then we go across here with our transverse colon, and then we go down our descending colon, which will then meet up with our sigmoid colon, and we'll go into our rectum, and from there out the anus. We also have the little appendix at the bottom here, right below our ascending colon. So those are kind of some of the things that we're looking at in this region. Now you see I didn't color everything in. So when I'm looking at the small intestines, when they have to absorb all these things, it needs a little bit of help. And some of the help is from having different enzymes that help with the absorption process, which we get from our pancreas. So the pancreas we learned about before with insulin and glucagon in endocrine, but it's also going to help with digestive enzymes that are going to help. And you can see that it's kind of located right behind that stomach. Our liver is also going to create bile. I realize I didn't talk too much about bile, but our bile is also going to help with the breakdown, and that bile is created in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. The gallbladder is located right underneath our liver. Oh, I guess I already did something in green, but usually people do green for the gallbladder, so I did that too. So those are kind of the main organs that we're looking at when we talk about the digestive system. Now I do want to talk about, and these are all, the bile and the things from the pancreas are all coming in to the first layer of our small intestines. So I said that there were 3 layers. I'm going to talk about them now. So from our stomach, we go into our first layer of our small intestines, which is our duodenum. This is where a majority of absorption is happening, and this is where we have the pancreatic enzymes and where we have bile that are kind of helping with stuff. They're all kind of going in at that level. From there, the bile is kind of interrelated here. From there, the duodenum is going to then become the jejunum. And then from the jejunum, it's going to become the ileum. So these are going to be my small intestines. Then from my ileum, it's going to go to my ascending colon. Specifically, kind of starts by coming in right at the junction between my ascending colon and my cecum. Now, the cecum has right at the end of it the appendix. Then from our cecum, it's going to go to my ascending colon. From my ascending colon, it's going to go to my transverse colon. From my transverse colon, it's going to go to my descending colon, to my sigmoid colon, to my rectum, and then out the anus. It's kind of the flow, and then these are all part of the large intestines. And that's kind of looking at the general flow of the digestive system. Now, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestines, and the large intestines have common structures of their organ walls. And so these are the common structures. Now, each one is a little bit different from each other. I'm not going to, in lab, talk about this, but just kind of understanding the layers. So the outermost layer so we're going to say starting from outer. The outermost layer is going to be known as my serosa. So this, a serosa is going to be the outlining of it. Now, when we talk about the esophagus, it actually doesn't have a serosa as an adventitia. It's a little different, but serosa is, in general, easier one to remember. So serosa or adventitia. The adventitia is only adventitia is esophagus. My spelling today is really bad, guys. I'm so sorry. So that's my outer layer. My next layer is going to be my muscular layer, called my muscularis externa. So this is multiple layers of smooth muscle, right? The digestive system is smooth muscle. We have an inner circular layer and we have an outer longitudinal layer. So the circular layer, the inner, has the muscle fibers are circling around the organ, whereas longitudinal, they're going this way. So the inner is circular, the outer is longitudinal. In the stomach, we have one extra layer, and that is going to be oblique. It's going to have this like oblique fibers. These nerves are all these muscles are all going to be innervated by the mesenteric plexus, which is part of the enteric system, which we didn't really talk too much about enterics. All right, so after our muscularis externa, we have our submucosa. Now, our submucosa typically has various glands in it. It also has a complex of nerves that are helping with peristalsis, which is the movement of the food throughout. So there are various different types of mucosal glands, submucosal glands, depending on the region. The esophagus has some, the duodenum also has some of them. The submucosa is made up of dense, irregular connective tissue. Then our deepest layer is our mucosa. So this is the inner. The mucosa is what is looking at, it's kind of the inside. So in here is now the organ, inside the organ. So that's where the food is. That's where all of it's getting churned up. That's what's happening in there. And this is the outside, the rest of the body. So those are the layers. So we have a serosa, then we have a muscular layer, the muscularis externa, the submucosa, and then the mucosa. Sometimes there is muscle tissue found that within different regions that are helping with that movement, all of that peristalsis, or moving the food through the body, through the digestive system. I don't think I did not have another image for that. So that is the digestive system in a little chunk. We'll talk more about it in lab. Please review, go through things from lecture, and I will see you guys in lab.